morning, Facebook. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the Civilized Presence. Please just give us 2 minutes for this video to come on. I'd love to share this. Okay, so Gbenga, it looks like we have a protection on your page. So you will have to share it from my page. I have it on my personal page now.
Do I need to share from another page?
You will have to share it from my personal page. I'm not able to put it on your page for some reason. It's not allowing me to do that.
So keep in mind, if I escape the screen, I might go off camera for a little while and come back again.
Okay.
Well,
can you do that?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just gonna continue. Good morning, Facebook. Thank you so much for joining. It's the Civilized Presence, and you are in the right place. Come on in and let me know where you're joining us from. Good morning. I can see that we have people joining in, but if you're not on my personal page, I'm not able to see your name right away. Okay, so just 1 second. Perfect. Welcome back. Ta-da! It's good to have you here again. Can you hear me, Gbenga? Perfect.
Yes.
Great.
I can hear you. I can't see you yet.
Okay, I can see you.
Okay, we can just go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you're just joining us for the first time, it's a Civilized Presence, and you are in the right place. Come on in and do us a favor, give us a thumbs up, give us hearts, and share this video. Welcome, Barbara Root. Welcome, Silk. It's great to have you. Please start a watch party on your page if you can. Thank you so much. For those of you who have been sending me messages, we're here now. So we're ready to go. So welcome. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yes, I want to see the thumbs up. Come into the video and just say a quick hello. Let me know where you're joining us from, but I'm pretty excited. So some of us are here for the very first time. Good morning, Silk. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much. Some of you are here for the very first time. So Civilized Presence is an online TV session where lives are changed, where people discover their purpose, voice, and learn social skills to thrive in the real world. So if you want to become a change maker, of course, you're in the right place. I want to say thank you so much for raising up your hand and just saying yes to the call, responding to the flyer, to the post. I don't know how you got here. Maybe you saw me on Instagram. Welcome. Are you on YouTube? Welcome. On Facebook? You're here on replay? Welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're here every Mondays and Fridays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So I want to apologize that we're a couple of minutes late because we had some technical difficulties. But I'm so excited that you made out time to be here. Some of you do not know me or have never met me before. My name is Louisa Akaiso, and I'm going to be your host for today. And like I said, I really feel so honored that you had to spend your morning, Friday morning, with me. I don't know where you're joining me from. I am right here in Fairfax, Virginia, and it's so sunny today. So, of course, I am excited. So, coming in and let me know what part of the world that you're joining us from. I'm just waiting for our guests to come back online, Wenger, and we'll continue with what we're doing for now. I know he's going to be here shortly. So I know that I have people waiting for us on Instagram, but we're having some difficulties trying to get Instagram at the same time this morning. So we'll see. Maybe we might have a repeat, probably. Okay, so you might be asking, what does she do? I am a certified master civility trainer and a leadership coach and expert with the John Maxwell team. Now, I work confidently with leaders and professionals that place great importance in themselves and their reputation. And that's going to be you this morning because you made out time to be here. So, Wenger, yes, we're right here just waiting for you to come on. and I can hear you. So come on in and let us know that you're here, and I'll bring you back on the screen. Now, you might be asking, why do we have an ambassador? Jaja, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you. I feel so honored that you made out time to hang out with me this morning from Africa. So, you might be asking, why do we have this session? The main focus of this Facebook series and sometimes Instagram series is really to help restore civility in our society. And so I've not been doing this alone. I've been working with different experts from all over the world, really working on breaking the concept of civility into tiny bits to get you to understand how simple but important it is for you to be civil. Like I say, if you've been following me, it's as easy as saying please and thank you, or even share a compliment to someone around you. Some of us have never ever said hello to our neighbors. And if you're that person today, it's not too late. You can begin right after the session, right after you're back from work to say hello to your neighbor. I'm sure it's going to give you a weird look because you've never done it before, but it will begin a conversation. It will begin a great relationship between both of you. So there's so much pain and hatred and anger and unrest in the world. What a better time for us to share the message of civility and why it's so important for us to treat others the way that we want to be treated. So this morning, some of you might still be new to the concept. Let me share with you a definition that I've chosen today from Dr. P.F. Funny. And welcome, Gbenga, back. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. It's good to have you back again. So we've chosen a definition from Dr. P.F. Funny, which states that being civil means being constantly aware of others and weaving restraint, respect, and consideration into that very fabric of awareness. So that means that civility is focused on positive people's treatment. Civility is gracious goodness. And so say it's not too late for positive change. That's correct. It's so good to have you in the house. Silk is an etiquette expert, and she does a lot of great work merging the importance of etiquette in settling down. I don't want to say just marriage, but in just moving forward in life and just progressing and succeeding in different parts of your life. So if you're that single mama or you're just trying to make it happen in your marriage or you're struggling with your relationship with people, Silk is the person to speak with. So, Sister Silk, it's great to have you here this morning. Thank you so much. So, like I said, civility is really an outcome of choosing behaviors, great positive behaviors that are congruent with your personal values. And I hope that your personal values are positive ones as well. So, whatever works for you, you could think about the golden rule, treating others the way that you want to be treated. Because every time that something happens, if you're in a situation or you're working with people, the minute that you ask yourself the question, if I was on the other side of the table, how would I feel? Right there, the light bulb comes on, and you realize that you probably have to adjust your attitude or change something here and there. So, yes, it's always great to have you here in the house, Silk. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, some of us might have seen the post for today, and some of us haven't. But if you haven't and you're just kind of jumping into our session this morning, and hello, Janet, it's great to have you. Hello, Esther. Hello, Izzy. It's great to have you here. Hello, Christy. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Let me know where you're joining from. I can see the US, I can see Africa, I can see Ghana, I can see Nigeria, I can see Canada. But let me know where you're joining us from. At least put in your city, your country, give us a thumbs up, heart, and share this video on your page because this is such a great message that we're going to be working on this morning. So you don't want to miss it. And I believe that if this works for you, if you have found this content valuable, somebody in your platform is also going to need to use this content. So why not just put it on your page and start a watch party? Facebook is so kind to give us all forms of resources to use. So the watch party is just easy. Just turn it on and people are going to jump on in and be part of what we're doing. So thank you so much. Ambassador Jaja, I can see you. It's great to have you here this morning. I don't know what part of the world that you're in, but it's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So the topic of today is the power of business storytelling. Now, all of us, majority of people, I mean, my clients or my audience, are and welcome. I can see people joining from the So Unique page. Please come on in and say hello, Jabber. It's great to have you. Sandra, it's great to have you. Shola, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. So come in and just let me know where you're joining us from because I don't want you to feel bad that I did not shout out your name when I really do appreciate you and I love you for making out time to really hang out with us this morning. So if I haven't gotten to you, give it some time. I'm going to shout out your name in a couple of minutes. So let's just get things started and I'll come back to the audience again. So the topic of today is the power of business storytelling. And I have with me the chief storyteller. It's not his first time here. He's a returning guest. I'm so excited that he's here. He's my friend. He's my mentor. He's my coach. He's everything. He's my brother. He's I am so excited that he's here because he's the best person to be speaking about this topic. And you're going to get to agree with me in a couple of minutes. So just hang on tight, grab your pen and paper. It's time to write, it's time to learn. And maybe a glass of water or a cup of coffee, whatever that's going to keep you awake and excited this morning. And thank you so much, Anana. It's great to have you here from New Jersey. Thank you so much for being here. The power of business storytelling. Guys, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a professional, you're a leader, you need storytelling in your life. Let me tell you, you cannot, people are not interested in all the contents that you put out there these days. People are not interested in all the great things that you have to say. They are more connected to your story. Some of us have been so disconnected from our stories. We never want to talk about our stories. And I used to be one of those that just put my story nicely, cutely into the suitcase and just lock it up, and you don't want to speak about it. But your clients, your audience, they want to hear your story because your story will help to activate your tribe. So if you're not talking about your story, who are you serving? We're going to have that conversation today. The expert is here, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to leave it for him. But let me give Gbenga a moment to say hello before I just kind of tell you how great he is. And over to you, Gbenga. Would you want to say hello to the audience?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Louisa. Thank you for the opportunity to come back to the platform, and I look forward to a fruitful, wonderful conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's always so great to have you back because I mean I learn every time that I speak to you, Wenger. I don't know about other people, but it's always something to learn. So guys, let me tell you who Wenger is. His name is Wenger Ogunjimi. Wenger is an author, a speaker, an identity strategist, and the chief storyteller. Wenger is a West African name that means elevate, which has led him to his life's purpose of elevating leaders from good to great. In his quest to fulfill that purpose, Wenger has coached hundreds of business and nonprofit leaders at organizations like Verizon, American Express, Teach for America, the Foundation Center, and UN Foundation. His premier book, Borderless Voice, The Power of Telling Your Story and Defining Your Identity, is a compilation of stories and strategies that shows readers how to harness the power of their story. He believes storytelling is not only everyone's greatest asset, but is also a conduit to all of life's highest aspirations. So, welcome, Wenger. It's so great to have you here this morning. And welcome, Sister Kate from Nigeria. It's so great to have you. I can see that we have people from Nigeria, and I feel so bad because we have people waiting on Instagram. But Instagram family, you're going to get to see this video. But I want you to know that I love you so much. We were just kind of struggling this morning a bit to get the video to you, but I'll make sure that I download this video and pass it back to you. So if you're coming from Instagram, welcome. I can see maybe that's why some people are late here because they're waiting on Instagram. But thank you so much for joining us. So, Wenger, this is going to be my very first question for you. Like you've been here before, how this works really is to get started with the questions and we begin the conversation and of course take it on from there. We're going to have questions from our audience and I'll bring it back to you. And because you're the expert, you're going to do your thing this morning. So my first question for you, Wenger, this morning is what does civility mean to you? Over to you, Wenger.
Well, thank you very much once again. Civility, the way I say civility, the synonym that comes to mind when I hear the word civility is empathy.
Mm,
And empathy for me is two levels. Empathy is trying to put yourself in someone's shoes and try to experience and be with them through their life's journey. But empathy for me is not just limited to identifying with people's process. Empathy also is loving someone enough that you try to elevate them to where you are. Empathy is also recreating your life's opportunities to someone around you or someone next to you. As we say, each one reach one or teach one. I think that is empathy. So when you do that, that is civility. And I think civility cannot be overemphasized, particularly in this time and in this culture and climate, particularly the political climate around the world. Um, if there's any time that we need civility, I think it's now. Um, so I think civility is empathy.
thank you so much. It's so great to have you here again. Of course, your definition of civility, empathy, it's so important. Empathy, compassion, some of the words that we think about, respect, responsibility, restraint. And that's something that as human beings we struggle with because it's always easier to just be selfish and just think about your own self alone. So when we think of empathy, of course, guys, it's not just going to happen. It's an intentional act of stretching out to include the other person and what's going on with them and being considerate. So, thank you so much. Yes, empathy leads to civility. That's correct. Thank you, Silk, for just mentioning that. Yes, so those are words that you should think about. And of course, when you hang out with me every Mondays and Fridays, you're able to learn simple things. I always say that there is a teacher for every student. And sometimes you might not get it from me, and you might just get it nicely done from Gbenga, like he just nicely put it, as empathy as being the major thing that leads to civility. So thank you so much, Gbenga. So now this leads me to our next question. And guys, thank you so much for joining us. Louisa from Canada. It's so great to have you here in the house. Thank you so much. Bola Banger, another banger from Nigeria. It's good to have you here. Thank you. So you have your twin brother right here, but not really. But come on in and say hello and just comment. And we're excited to have you here. So this is going to take us to our next question for you, Banger, this morning. Can you explain to our audience? So let's say people do not understand what storytelling is in a layman's language, the art of storytelling. What is it? What is storytelling? Because everyone is talking about storytelling, social media everywhere where people are talking about storytelling. So, what is storytelling and what's the proper way to actually tell a story? Over to you, Wenger.
Well, I don't think a lot of people struggle with the idea that they have a story to tell. My experience working with people and organizations is, do we actually believe that people want to listen and hear our story?
Mm,
Oftentimes when I ask people, like, what is your story? And the typical default reaction is, my story is not that. We don't have to wait this time to go about my story.
mm,
And when they start to try to draw the story out of them and say, no, tell me about you, I'm genuinely interested. And they started to tell me about their life journey. And in the process, they become pleasantly surprised with what they have accomplished, with what they have done, with how much lives they have touched. And, there's a Christian saying that says, count your blessings. And I think that is an act of storytelling as well. Being able to sit down and take inventory of the defining moment that has framed who you are. You didn't show up here in 2019, June 2019, by accident. There are several events that is responsible for this particular moment. The ability to go back in time and frame that narrative and frame that story and use that to introduce and put yourself, that is an act of storytelling. So storytelling has always been with us uh, from time. Storytelling was the way we built community back in the day. Storytelling is the way we preserve our family story, our family identity. Storytelling is the way some of us found purpose. Storytelling is the way some of us embrace faith. When I was growing up, there's a book called The Bible Stories. Storytelling is the way we have a vision of, say, going to a new country. Storytelling is the way we try to frame our core identity, value proposition. Those are embodied in a story. In my culture, we have what is called the folklore. Folklore is a compilation of the stories of your family ancestors, and they will go in time and say, so person gave birth to this and was a warrior and was a businessman and was a leader. So when you coming into the world, you are blessed with this thing called your family story, your family identity. Now, my point of view, my expert point of view to storytelling is this. When we think of storytelling, it's not just about our past to date. Your story is the proximity to your life's aspiration, is where you're going. The one that is impactful, the one that is influential, is the ability to say, this is my journey, but this is where the story takes me to. And changing that and that order and reverse engineering the process, you will be astounded with the opportunities that will begin to manifest. And as we go into this broadcast, I'm going to be sharing you examples of people in my client, people in my community who have embraced this model of telling story from a forward-looking, future-oriented, even aspirational standpoint, and how that has changed everything for them. If you wouldn't mind me adding one last piece to it, that every opportunity to introduce yourself is an opportunity to tell a story. And every opportunity to tell a story is the opportunity to co-create. When people say, can we meet you? Can you tell us about yourself? This is who I am. This is my journey. This is what I want to do. That is an invitation for collaboration. That is an invitation to co-create. And what are you co-creating? You're co-creating all the opportunities that you always want. It is that story that activates that community. So that is my definition, a long definition of, let me say, perspective to storytelling.
Thank you so much, Wenger, and that was so great. And thank you. I can see some more people coming in, guys, but we have to go to the deal of the day. And thank you so much, Apu. I'm just going to deal with people who come into the video and say hello. I'll get back to the rest later on. So, Wenger, this is pretty interesting. Now, we have, you see, I wanted to run the session for today. Really, everyone is so excited about this session of the storytelling, and majority of people here are entrepreneurs or leaders of some sort. So I want them to be able to get something away from this session. So I remember you talking about storytelling being a form of marketing strategy for entrepreneurs, for professionals. Can you kind of expound on that?
Mhm.
How can one use storytelling to enhance their brand, for example, as an entrepreneur or a leader? How does your story help you do that? Over to you, Wenger.
You know, storytelling is the new market. People are connected to a brand that they think represent the values they stand for. Customers are becoming increasingly savvy and sophisticated, and the customer and client's behavior is significantly changing. Customers, you've seen a lot of boycotts and say delete this person, whether it is delete Uber or boycott Starbucks or H&M. When there was the advert, recently, um, we have seen businesses completely blown out because they failed to capture the interest of their customers. So customers are investigating the ideologies of a business. In fact, they're even going further to say the brand that I support, what is their political affiliation? So the responsibility to every brand ambassador or creator or entrepreneur is to be able to represent the point of view and the interest of their client in your marketing message. People, it's the age of social media. The economy of this age is being driven by relationships and community, and people want to be a part of that. So storytelling is the ability to capture those interests and say, we share the same values. We are part of the same tribe. We're part of the same community. So the world of marketing, thinking about demographics and psychographics and market geographics and all of that is rapidly changing. People want to be a part of a tribe. People want to be a part of a community. So more than ever before, we have the opportunity to use storytelling to activate that tribe. The last product you bought, you didn't really bought the product because they gave you all this list of benefits and features and all of that. You bought the product highly because there was an emotional factor involved. Maybe because the way the message was communicated to you, maybe it wasn't intrusive. Um, so storytelling has been able to capture that. So how exactly do we use our story for our business? So number one is to capture the point of view, the values of the people you do business with, and frame that in a story. Number two is to approach your community uh, from a relationship standpoint. And really, relationship is currency, and use your story to say, this is the way we engage with each other. What is going to happen is this. In as much we all have individual stories, the themes of our stories are always universal. Also, think about a product like Nike. Like Nike is a product that gives you this aspirational belief that everyone can be an athlete, right? That everyone can have a super high, superhuman performing, athletic performing ability. And if you share that point of view, if you share that interest, they've done a wonderful job in saying, this is a story for this community. And they're not telling you about the features of the product. They're telling you the values of the product. So we see the wonderful marketing they put out with Colonel Kaepernick and saying he stood for something. We saw Serena Williams and say Venezuela, they stood for something. And they show us all these icons. And these are the people we aspire, we want to be like. And they use a story to bring everyone together as part of a community. So if you start investigating and saying, what is the core value system of the people that I serve? And finding that story, whether it's your story, whether it's their story, using that as a point of engagement, the possibilities for enterprise, it's limitless. Lastly, I want to add to this because we're going to go further into this. The About Us page, the story page is now the new About Us page. The About Us page is the most visited aspect of any website. Most websites would rather now have a story rather than about us, right? And that is a way of digital storytelling and saying, we also have a story to tell as a business. And we can read all about our story on our website. And when people read that story, they connect to that story. And opportunities for monetization at that point are endless.
Wow, this is so powerful that you mentioned that, talking about the about us just being the story of the brain behind the brand. That's interesting. So there is no way for us to hide out anymore. And welcome, Dee, from Virginia. It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Gbenga, I love your book, Waterlet's Voice. Okay, so can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I don't want to go crazy about that book, guys. You have to pick up. There you go. You have to pick up a copy of this book, The Borderless Voice. It's so nicely written. I mean, it's one of those books that you pick up and you do not want to let it down. I saw a post yesterday from Brain Brown talking about books that we should buy for our younger ones who are graduating. And I'm thinking, Brain, I think you want to put Borderless Voice there. They need to be able to understand the power of their story, even right now when they're graduating, because imagine what you could make of your life or your brand or anything that you pursue if you're able to find your voice right on time. So Wenger, I want us to talk a little bit about the contents of the book, as I know that you shared some really great stories of whether it's clients that you have worked with or whether it's organizations, and just using that as an example to teach the audience on how people have used their story to sell their brand. Over to you, Winger.
Well, the book Borderless Voice, The Power of Telling Your Story and Defining Your Identity, it's a privilege that I got to write this book. And the book, it's a compilation of the transformational stories of my client. And what I did was to piece together their defining moment and the strategies that was responsible for everything changing for them. In the book, I took you through my own journey as well as my client's journey, and I try to extrapolate insight that you can put to use in your own life, in your own transition. The idea of the book is everyone has a story to tell. And because of that, there are two defaults. It's either you take on the responsibility of telling your story or you do nothing and someone else will tell your story for you. Every individual has a story to tell. Every family has a story to tell. Every corporation has a story to tell. Every country has a story to tell. And when any of these entities take on the responsibility of telling their story, they define or redefine their identity. They get to say, this is where we want us to be perceived and received and respected in the world, in the marketplace. So this idea of borderless voice is this idea that everyone has a voice on the inside. They have a unique perspective. They have a purpose. They have a brand identity. I go further to say they have thought leadership on the inside. The idea of thought leadership is not just you are just part of the 1% or 2% or 10%. Is this idea that you have a unique perspective. You have a story that only you can tell in the world. There is this quote that says that do not try to build the best business in the world. Build a business that only you can build. Do not try to be the best consultant in the world. Be a consultant or start run a consulting practice, and you are only the one that is uniquely wired to do that. So what Borderless Voice does, it takes you through a process for bringing the story out of you or bringing that unique voice. When you find that unique voice is when you become uh, transcendent, is when you become supernatural. And that is when you collapse every barrier that stands between you and your goals. I went further to say the greatest barrier is not financial, is not cultural, is not intellectual, is not skills. The greatest barrier is your own self perception, the way you see yourself. So in the book, I define the way you see yourself as your identity and the way I see you as your brand. So think about this. You are the governing authority of your personal identity, of your gender identity, of your spiritual identity, of your cultural identity. But when it comes to your professional or business identity, we try to abdicate and defer or outsource that to somebody else. Somebody trying to wait for an external party to give us some form of license and certification or accolades or endorsements or permission. Transformation and acceleration starts when you start to give yourself permission. And when you stop asking people for permission, think about it. In your field, the people you call the thought leaders, we both know that some of them even have more skills than them. You have more experience than them. But what separates you and them is this. They decided to give themselves permission and they didn't ask you for their permission to be their best self. So the book challenges you to do that and find that unique perspective and voice within yourself. And when you do that, you become absolutely unstoppable. And I show you how to do so, and I also show you people who have done so. So that is a kind of short description of what to expect in the book for the listeners.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Silk, it's so good to have you here. Thank you so much. Yes, guys, you will agree with me that Wenger is the right person to teach you this topic. I'm telling you, there is so much that he has to offer in the area of storytelling. And if you were like me back in the days, or my younger self, I'm speaking to my younger self now. So let's say I'm 42 now. So I'm speaking to my 39 self who thought that my story wasn't valuable. So if you were that person, let's call that 39 self Louisiana. So if you thought that you were Louisiana and you think that your story is not valuable, if you think that you cannot talk to people about your story, if you think that you know, you should just go on in life and just leave your story in the past, then you have the right person in the house to speak to. And this is going to take me on to the next question. Now we have people still coming in, and let me let you know that we have a few people who are here. Charles is here from Ghana. Thank you so much for joining us, Tracy. I appreciate your making out time to be here. Baba Tunde. It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so we're going to go back to this. If you are coming in for the first time, we're talking about the power of business storytelling. So, are you an entrepreneur, a leader, you run an NGO, you work in the community? You can find out how it is so easy. Well, not that easy, but the steps in which you can use to create your story. Because our story could be in the rough stage, okay? It could be all over the place. And that takes me to my next question, Wenger. Many of us have got different kind of stories. Now, you've mentioned a defining moment. You've mentioned creating your story in such a way that it's a powerful tool that gets you to stand out of the pack as an entrepreneur, and it connects you to the right people that should be working with you. Now, how can we take our story in the rough, that story that is all over the place, and polish it up to be the story that is a diamond and is ready to sell and people want to appreciate it and are ready to listen to it? How can we take it from that form? And what are those things that should be in that story? Are there certain components that should be in our story? Are there certain things that we should look out for just so that we don't get our stories misunderstood? Because we have different kind of stories. Of course, every single day there's a story for every day. But what should we be looking out for? And over to you, Wenger.
Well, I'd say the very first thing we have to do is this belief that we have a story to tell and we have a unique story to tell. And I think that self belief is the most paramount. As I said, the default reaction in my line of work is people go, huh, my story is not that important. And I think we have to change that paradigm. We have to understand that our story is about, think about it like a universal choir, and everyone is trying to sing one particular song, but there's a unique sound and voice every single part of that choir brings to that melody and symphony. And without the right combination, it's not going to stick, it's not going to resonate. And thinking about that story, that we actually have such contribution to make to the world. The second thing I would say is not to try too hard, to overly want to be this story polished and sophisticated. The concept is this: when you come from the spirit, you touch your client or your people from the spirit, which is from your heart, from the emotions. When you come from the mind, when you come from the head level, you touch your people at an intellectual head level. So, and that brings us to vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable enough to go into your past, to go into your life's journey and bring the story out of you. One of the questions you want to ask yourself is this: what is that story that you haven't shared with us all? Some of us have gifts, and life, God gave us this gift, and this gift are framed in what I call defining moments. Some of us have found love. Some of us has lost love. Some of us found faith. Some of us lost faith. Some of us found our purpose. Some of us found our move to a new country. Some of us met a mentor. Some of us realized it's not what I should be doing anymore. Some of us overcame some personal tragedies in life. And some of us have some life changing experiences. So I say all of that to say, whether good or bad, your defining moment, a moment that is visceral, reaction, they're emotionally charged, they alter the trajectory of your life going forward. You can't miss it. It's very real to you. But oftentimes, a lot of people have this defining moment and we just skip it and we just move on as if it never happened. Because some of us is very painful going to relieve and think about it. If you look at what is happening in our culture, um, one of the most watched, currently the most watched film on Netflix is When They See Us, the story of the five Central Park Five.
Yes,
It was a
yes,
very emotional. I cried watching that.
me
In
too.
fact, I'm saying it didn't happen to me, and I'm telling people I'm healing. Just watching, I'm going through my healing process. But guess what? Because someone decided to tell it was a difficult story, but it has to be told. And that story is sparking a national debate, a national conversation about our criminal justice system, a national conversation about conscious bias, and all this transformational things that are happening in the country because someone went back to a story that happened 30 years ago. Wasn't an easy story to listen to, absorb, but it has to be told. You can even begin to look at the financial implication of that story in terms of the revenues that story has done. We can begin to look into the marketing, the opportunities that has happened, but look at it from a policy, strategy, nation building, community activating perspective, all the slew of benefit that begins to happen just from that story. That was a defining moment for the city of New York and for these five individuals and five families 30 years ago. We all know again, I hate to talk about money with something of that traumatic. We know the settlement for that was $41 million. Look at what it goes into producing that to become the number one current ranking
Mm,
film in the country right now. And
mm,
what is the implication of that? So I say that to say we all have this defining moments, and those defining moments have defined what our purpose is in this world. But until we go back into those moments, we can really tell a powerful story. So you gotta be vulnerable enough to go back and tell that story. So what are the tools again to make this story more compelling? The last thing I would talk about is this idea of contrast. One of the things we love when we watch a movie and we see a story is this contrast of a hero and a villain. Is this contrast of someone who was struggling from rag to riches? Is this contrast of someone who was lonely and whatever, and then they found love and they found a community? Is this contrast of someone who moved to a new country and they say they found the American dream? So it was usually a contrast. And that is why I said your powerful story is such a one that is aspirational, that is forward looking. It's not enough that you take your audience to the past. What I'll say is don't leave your audience in the dark, bring them to the light. So again, show us those defining moments, but tell us how you overcame that defining moment. This Central Park 5 and Why They See Us resonated because in as much that was difficult, they show us how the story ended. They show us the success. They show us the breakthrough that happened and the dawn of a new day, so to say, that happened. So that element of contrast is a way that you actually spark the curiosity, the emotional component, and you connect with your community at a much more personal level.
Thank you so much, Gbenga, and welcome, Bonsi. It's great to have you here from Canada. Thank you, thank you. All my people from Canada, it's so good to have you guys here in the house. And the topic of today is the power of business storytelling. So, are you still struggling with your story? We all have a story, so I'm not going to ask if you do have a story. You do have a story. What's that story that you've never told anyone? What's that story that you don't want anyone to know about? Now, storytelling, of course, like we've learned from the experts, requires vulnerability. So you must be ready to open up. It takes a lot of courage. It might bring in tearing up a little bit because you're taking yourself back to that dirty place that you didn't want to go back to. But at the end of it, you're going to be excited that you did. So, Winger, I think it's just fair for me to ask you at this point to share with us what your personal story is. Over to
Well,
you.
okay, in Borderless Voice, I talked about how I had a divine moment, and I had a story I didn't tell anyone. And it was a story that happened to me at the Atlanta International Airport. And it's when I was being coming back into the country, and I had to state my status, my legal status in the United States. And the options were a citizen, permanent resident, as well as a visitor. It was a few years ago, and I was still a visitor at that particular point. But I decided to make a life-changing decision. Honestly, I wouldn't say I was bold. I wouldn't say I was trying to be courageous. The truth is, I didn't know what got over me, Louisa. I didn't know. I just got in, and I told this customer immigration officer that yes, I'm a citizen, but I'm back in the U.S. to do business. And they say, do you know you're not supposed to be doing business in the United States? So, well, I see myself contributing to the economy of the United States. And I do have a local business I'm going back to run. And they put me over for secondary screening. I was escorted into a waiting room. And it looks like what you see on the television, what you see in the
Mm.
movies. There was this glass walls. You couldn't see what is going outside, but you could see the room. And my community was very interesting. There were like Arabs and West Africans and Mexicans. And I was saying, Benga, what have you done? You could have gone the easy way. Tell them that you're here to see your cousin. Tell them you're here to see your friend. Tell them that you want to attend a conference. And why have you put this on yourself? And it was so graphic that they put all our luggage right in the center of like two walls, two doors. The one to the right gets you back on the next flight to your country of origination, and the door to the left gets you into the United States. And I was seeing people going back and putting them on the flight back to their countries where they came from. And I said, Bang again, what have you done with yourself? All your career, everything you've done, it comes down to this moment. And so they called me back again, and the officer said, I want to give you a chance to really explain. We told one of our officers that you are here to do a business. Is that so? At this point, I couldn't change anything. I said, yes, that is so. That I was here in the country, I started this business, and we operate in several countries around the world. We have an office in Washington, D.C., and we work with several agencies and we work with several organizations. I actually have a staff waiting for me in the office. And they said, but do you know you are not a citizen or a resident? You shouldn't be doing that. You're only here to visit. I said, that is true, but I thought I use this opportunity to contribute something. So they sent me back to the room and they want to investigate everything I said. And they came back and I heard my name in the speakerphones. So my name started with a G, it started with the letter G, right? It's GB. And Americans can say the Gbenga sound, the GB sound. But for the very first time, I heard Americans say Gbenga Ogunjimi. I was so glad. I know that was a decision time. So I showed up and they say, we investigated your story. We can tell everything you're saying is true, but we are issuing you an advisory to change to a permanent resident status. And this is how you go about doing it. Well, you would appreciate what this means because the only visa or green card designation was an international investor. You have to
Mm,
have millions of dollars to be able to do so. My business was not even close to that. I didn't even have a personal network close to that.
right.
But the fact that I chose to define my identity by something that is on my inside, and I didn't allow the environment to put pressure on me. I
Mm,
didn't allow the designation to say you are only this or that, define who I am. But I defined myself with an identity that best resonated with an international entrepreneur. And that became my identity in the United States. About that time, prior to that time in the United Kingdom, a journalist for The Guardian wrote a piece, and she said, how come white people go overseas and they're experts, but we come to the US or UK and we are immigrants when we have the same skill sets? And that spoke to me so deeply that, I think it's how we chose to define our identity. And
mm.
at that point forward, I said my identity outside of my own country, Nigeria, would be an international entrepreneur. So that is a story that you read in the book, and also you read more about the defining moments of my life.
Wow, that is such a powerful story, and I can only imagine if you were not ready. Look, guys, look at the power of telling your story and not allowing your conditions and circumstances to get in the way. Because if you did not have it, your story nicely crafted or your identity, you could have been on your way back to Africa. If you had made a single mistake, that's it. And welcome, Beth from Kenya. It's great to have you here. Welcome, Frank from Ghana. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you are just getting here, the topic of today is the power of business storytelling. So, if you're still struggling with your story, um, yes, I'm receiving messages, but guys, please come on in. You cannot send me a message, okay? I am right here live, and thank you so much, Dr. Joy. It's great to have you here from Nigeria. Thank you for being here, making out time. I don't know what part of the world you're in, but we have all these great people in the house today. So I'm so excited, Gbenga, because, for example, Dr. Joy does a lot of work with women. She's the president for Women International League for Peace and Freedom, and this is an organization that is over 100 years, and has membership all over the world. So she's working with a lot of women, and I find that women need to embrace their stories. We're doing a lot more now, but back in the day, we just thought it was about starting up a business and just pushing it on. We really didn't want to talk about our past. Now I'm going to ask a question, and this is for myself and of course for my audience. I two questions. Two. Let me share with you two scenarios. So one was I worked with a lady who had an organization that was dealing with um, genital humiliation, mutilation. Sorry, genital mutilation with women, and she also was doing some work with women in the area of abortion. And we had a chat, and I asked her what her story was because she was doing all of this work. She was so passionate about taking it into different countries. And I asked her what her story was. And she didn't want to talk about her story. And she kept saying, "Oh, Louisa, this is what I want to do. This is what my NGO does." I said, "Well, you are not going to buy my attention until I understand the reason why you decided to do what you're doing. Nobody just wakes up to pursue freedom for women or girls in the area of abortion, for example, or genital mutilation, if you don't have a personal story. I mean, nobody's going to listen to you. How do we know that you actually understand what they're going through?" And so it was after a lot of back and forth, and welcome, Grace. It's great to have you here from Nigeria. After a lot of back and forth, and she said, "Oh, Louisa, um, yes, when I was younger, I was abused. That's not something I love to talk about, but you're really pressing on so much. I was abused, and of course, I ended up with two kids on two different guys. and it wasn't a very good experience. But that's not very important with the work that I'm doing. I had people who are sponsoring what I'm doing, and we're trying to get sponsorship and reach out to girls and women. And so I don't really think that my story is important here. But if because you kept on pressing on, that's that bit of it. And so I said to her that you have to tell more of your story. You have to dig it out. I'm sorry. It might not sound so nice, it might not sound so great, but you have to bring it out. The moment that you start talking freely about what you went through, you're going to be able to connect with a lot more people, because many people who were afraid of being judged or looked down on would be happier and would resonate with you a lot better because you understand their pain. So they'll be happy to work with you. So that was one. The second one is I got to work with a client who said she's a coach, and she is a coach. And I asked her, what kind of coach are you? Because these days I find that we have too many coaches online. I mean, if you go on Instagram, on Facebook, everybody's a coach. But I said, so who do you coach? What do you coach? What's your message? She wasn't very sure of her message. She said, well, I trained and I got certified as a coach. That's fine. That's good to know. But what's your message? Who is your target client? Who are those that you're marketing to? Okay, so create an avatar. Who is this person? Who is your client? If I'm looking for a Louisa client, I know who they are. So, who is your client? But she really didn't have it. And she really didn't think it was important. She just felt that she was trained as a coach, she was a certified coach, she was open for business, and she's ready to go. So this is something I want us to talk about, Wenger. And if you can explain this further to the audience, because we have a lot of coaches and trainers and speakers on this call right now. How important is your story? You can, even though you are a certified speaker, trainer, coach, for example, with the John Maxwell team, is it still very important to find your story and be able to polish or create your story, or even uncover your story, because sometimes we buried it somewhere? Is it still important to do that even though you're already like a certified speaker, a certified coach? Now, the other part of my question, so B section, is would your story change your purpose? Because I find that a lot of people are very, interested and ready to find what their purpose is, but they're not interested in talking about their story. So, would your story, when you eventually find what your story is and create that story, is it going to change your purpose? Would it get in the way? Would it seem like you're a joke? Like, is it going to be two different things? Over to you, Wenger.
Well, the very first piece of the question is it reminds me of one of the stories in the book Motherless Voice, the story of an organization called Susan G. Komen. Susan G. Komen is a 2 billion with a B. It is $2 billion organization. And if you go to the website under the story page, it tells you the story that Nancy Jimmy Brinker promised our dying sister, Susan, on her dying bed, that she would do everything possible to end breast cancer for women around the world. All she had was $200, and she had a few list of people who can possibly support her. Fast forward a couple of years after, $200 became $2 billion. They have operations or work they do in over 20 countries. They serve a lot of women, millions of women around the world. Their annual revenues, as I said again, is in the billions of dollars. But guess what, Louisa? There was a tragedy. There was a tragic moment in the story of this family losing someone to breast cancer.
Mm.
But they had to make a life-changing decision. They have to say, we have an option. We can either let the story be what it is and move on and grieve and heal, or we can tell the story, and which is a conduit to your next question. That story became the purpose of the woman called Nancy Jean Brinker. And that purpose became the organizational mission statement. of this organization called Susan G. Komen for the Cure and become a global enterprise because they decided to tell the story. So, for those of you and those of us who are involved in the transformation space, which is the business of changing lives, uh, more than ever, we want to start by telling our own self transformational stories. What is your why? How did you become identified to this cause, to this organization, to this theme? What was the defining moment that is in parallel to that particular goals you were championing? Whatever that is. So, told you the story of Nancy G. Gbenga. So does the story change your purpose? No. As a matter of fact, your story is the articulation of your purpose. Your story is the articulation of those defining moments. I started this broadcast by saying that everyone has thought leadership within them. So what is going to happen is you have gone through some unique life defining experiences. When you start telling the story, you will activate a community or a tribe of people who have also gone through the same life defining experience. Again, while our stories are individual, the themes that bound and connect us together are universal, whether it is love, overcoming, adversity, success, freedom, whatever those themes are, people begin to identify and relate with you. When you tell your story, the right people will come to you. And those right people coming to you from your community, from your tribe. And that is where the greatest miracles happen. So you got to go back to those defining moments that have shaped who you are. Another from the business enterprise standpoint is we think about Starbucks coffee that we all love. It has become the American culture, not just American, around the world. Now, Starbucks in the 80s wasn't a location, wasn't a retail store you go to and you got coffee in a paper cup like this. No, you went to a grocery store like Whole Foods or Safeway and you got coffee beans and you make that yourself. What happened was the CEO, Howard Schultz, went to Milan, Italy. And when he got to Italy, he saw that they actually have coffee bars. And people would come in the morning and they would read their newspaper. And there was a community, it's called the third place from your home or your office, which is the coffee store, which is a form of community building. So he was captivated. It said when he was served the coffee, he had a visceral reaction. He was literally shaking. If you listen to the interview on Oprah, he said he knew from that very moment, this is the future of Starbucks. He came back to America and he utilized that particular defining moment to change the entire operational and business model of this corporation that is called Starbucks. Today, they are the market leader in coffee, another $1 billion organization. Now, what happened? So, whether it is Nancy or whether it's Howard, they have this defining moment that shaped who they were. One of it is extremely positive, one of it is extremely negative, right? But they incorporate this defining moment into the work that they do. And that became their business purpose. That became their CEO's purpose. That became their nonprofit's purpose. Telling that story is the way they articulate that purpose to a community, and more people begin to connect with it. If I found a job with Susan G. Komen and I'm telling that story, I can relate with the women in my life who either have had scales cancer or they overcame cancer or they are still going through cancer. At that point, it's not just something for me that it is like that is transactional. It's a
Mm-hmm.
personal experience. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
connected to that organization at a purpose level. And the team continues to articulate that story. And that is how we build a tribe. So it doesn't change your purpose. It articulates your purpose and it amplifies your purpose. Lastly, about monetization. Wealth finance, income, revenue requires a purpose to come to you. And that is why we say, what is your why? Organizations that are the most successful can tell you in a few words, this is my why. Coaches that are the most successful, they'll tell you in a few words, this is my why. Nonprofits that are the most successful can articulate in few words, this is my why. It requires a vehicle to come to you. And you telling people, you evangelizing and talking about that, that is where you amplify your purpose and you grow and build your community.
Thank you so much, Winger. It's so great to have you here. And we have some more people coming in. Mabel, it's great to have you. Kiki, it's great to have you. Christopher, thank you for joining us. Voero, thank you for joining us. David, Grace, thank you so much for joining us. Um, I have someone here that I'm trying to pronounce your name. Farhan Saliem, thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have you here. Now, if I didn't get your name correctly, please pardon me. The next time that you're back, I'm going to do something about it. I'll be able to do it. I'll do a better job with pronouncing your name because we have such a global audience, guys. And I'm so happy and really appreciate all of you for always making out time to be here because without you, the show will not go on. So I have to take a moment to say thank you, thank you, thank you again for believing in me and for just standing by me, your support, your comments, your messages, your mails. You're always hitting at me every day. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for always doing that because that keeps me going and encourages us to do more. And it kind of shows us that you're benefiting from what we're sharing. Now, Winger, I do know that you have a great program, the Storytelling Intensive, guys. Now, some of you had asked me already as soon as you saw the post, and I've been talking about the book, A Borderless Voice, and some of um, the contents that I got from the program. I actually went through this program, guys, and I know that it was an amazing, life-changing 6 weeks, for me. I've done so many programs, like, you know, I've done a lot of trainings. I've gone through a lot of trainings, workshops, certifications, but this one was the icing on the cake because it helped me to go back into myself. Like I said, bring out that story, which I could never tell anyone, and just kind of use it now in my business. And it helped me to change a lot of things. I remember the first time that I made a bit of a tweak to my Instagram profile. Oh, sorry, not Instagram, LinkedIn profile. I had people hitting on me and just adding me on. And I said, "Oh, Baker, it looks like this is working. I just made a change." And I have more people trying to become my friend and sending me messages on LinkedIn. So, guys, this is a program that you want to be part of. And I know there's one starting soon. Baker, when is the next session starting?
Well, the next class starts in August. Um, yes, it starts in August, and it's a 6 weeks from the first week of August um, through the early part of September.
Oh, great. So, guys, if you want to be part of this program, if you're an entrepreneur, listen, I cannot tell you enough. This is a program that you should be part of. I should have done this like years ago. I just did mine and I'm so excited. And I had to bring this content to all of us because whenever I find some gold, I always bring it to you. So you want to be part of this program. You want to be part of the 6 weeks training. It is so good for you because Wenger is there with you throughout the 6 weeks. He's there to work one-on-one with you with your story, create that marketing piece for you, and even like a brand profile. He does a lot of work within the 6 weeks, guide. So this is a program that you want to be part of, and I believe that Wega is going to do something special for those of you who are coming from this session. And so, if you're interested in this, send me an inbox or send me an email, or you can add Wenger directly on Facebook. It's Gbenga Ogunjimi. You can see his name right on the screen. So go follow him and be part of what he's doing. Ask him about how you can work with him. Bring it on. He's ready to work with you. A lot of people here, we all have our different organizations, different brands. We all have our purpose. Some of us are in the process of finding our why, our voice, and Gbenga is happy to work with you to do that. So if you want to be part of that August class, and I think that might be the last one for the year, make sure that you jump on in because it's usually limited. He doesn't take too many people because, like I said, he has to work with everyone. He has to have a lot of one-on-ones with you and make sure that you're doing the right thing. So get in touch with me as soon as possible. So that you can be able to enjoy some early bird discount or something. And so get in touch with me as soon as you can. Get in touch with Gbenga. Send me an email, Louisa at the civilityacademy.com, and inbox whatever that you want to do. If you want to be part of some more things that Gbenga does, you want to follow him on Facebook because every week he has some kind of a lesson on storytelling. You will get to work with other people that has worked with him. Gbenga, just before you go, I wanted you to share the story of the lady that worked with you, the fashion psychologist. I love that story.
Okay.
Yes, can you just share that story with our audience, please?
And absolutely, absolutely. And quickly before I go into the story, if you want to get the book Borderless Voice, my gift to you for being a part of this broadcast is you can actually listen to the audio of the first chapter on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and type Borderless Voice, my name, The Power of Telling Your Story, you get to read the audio book. I hope
Hmm.
that inspires you. And then it leads you to go get the rest, to go purchase the book in Amazon on my website at gbenga.org. The
Thank
story
you.
of Sandra is Sandra came from, Sandra's family came from West Africa, a country called Cape Verde. And in the 1800s, that is many, many years ago. And they settled down in the Boston area, that is New England area. And their family survived. They had to rely on style, on sewing or weaving clothes. That is the identity of that country. So think about Cape Verde, like Brazil, like Cuba, very soulful country with culture and style. So when they came in, their survival mechanism was sewing. So think about when you went to the store and went to do some garment alterations, you were the people, they were the people you took it to. When when it was time for her to venture out and go to school and find her purpose, she did everything possible to break the mold. She didn't want to do what our parents did, what our grandparents did, because for her, she thought that was some of a stigma, an immigrant stigma. She wanted to find her own voice. But interestingly, everywhere she went, people gave her this compliment of an iconic sense of style. Sandra is the only woman that can go to a job interview having a purple or gray or yellow hair to get the job, right? So she's that kind. She has this invincibility when it comes to expression. But
Hmm.
she was bent on going the opposite direction. So she went to school and she studied psychology, and her career started to open up. She started to work for the city, and she was a social worker, and she was helping people. And she didn't couldn't take it anymore. She thought she had to find her purpose. She resigned her job. She moved to Washington D.C. And in the first week, we crossed paths with each other. And she came from this very intensive, this coaching intensive, and the very first step of the intensive that you would have to write your story. It's a very scary exercise. You would have to tell the story before you can move forward. But she wouldn't do that. It was an emotional reaction for her, like it is for most people, including myself. But I realized when we started to touch on our family, she wouldn't want the conversation to go further than that. So she stopped the conversation. I respected her space. And a couple of a day later, she hit me back. She texted me the word the fashion psychologist. And I said, this is interesting. Let's talk about this. So she said, Benga, I've decided to combine my passion, my family's purpose, with my training. and my brand is going to be called the Fashion Psychologist. So we created a mission statement, which is helping women embracing the power of their mind and their wardrobe to actualize the outcomes they're seeking out of life. She had
Mm.
two signature programs. One is Sweat the One Way, and the other one is Holistic Fashion Research. And now she has a global audience around the world. She's currently in the UK doing her work. She's been traveling. She's going to corporate organizations to speak with people about fashion psychologists. She has clients on every walks of life. But in a very 9 to 5, until recently, she was an entry level position at National Geographic. But in her
Mm.
purpose, her business, she's a thought leader. And she created this global community called the Fashion Psychologists. So that is the story. And the last piece I had to this is when I tell my story, when I do presentation, people often tell me, Benga, your story is amazing, your book is good, but can you please connect me to this woman called Fashion Psychologist? No hard feelings, but you know, I say that because our story resonates with a lot of people even before meeting her. So that is what you would expect when you come to the coaching intensive. You may come as one particular professional title, and you may leave as the other one, which is often the case. And
Absolutely.
once you have that language to frame your brand
Absolutely.
identity, all these opportunities open up. So that is what to expect in intensive.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wenger, and welcome, Josh. It's great to have you here. Guys, we have come to the end of this session. I hate to let you go. I always hate this moment because it's like I'm just going to leave you guys, but I will be back again on Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So, like I said, if you're interested in what we're doing, if you think that you have something great that you want to share with our audience, send me an email, Louisa at thecivilityacademy.com. If there's a topic that you want to learn about, send me an email. Let me know what that topic is. I've been receiving tons of emails from people, and I want to apologize for those people who I haven't brought on the show because your message must align with what we're doing. And so we always kind of schedule a chat. And if your message doesn't align with what we're doing, it's kind of difficult for me to bring that up to the audience. But I love you very much. And please send me more mails because I want to bring more people from different parts of the world. If there's something that you want to learn that we haven't talked about, let me know. It's going to be an interesting next month, the month of July. I have something in stock for you. The children are home, so the parents are spending more time with the children, and we're back again to a full month on parenting, effective parenting next month. I'm so excited. I love to work with the children and the parents and the families. So it's going to be a great full month of parenting and youth development programs. So I'm so excited. So, of course, if you think that you have something to share with us, if you want to share your awesomeness with us, I want to know about you. I want to learn about what you do. Send me an email. That's the fastest way to reach me. If you've sent me an inbox on Facebook and I haven't responded yet, I want to apologize because I received tons of messages. And so, really getting to them every day sometimes can be a lot, but I will get to that. So please, another thing that I want to mention is I know a lot of people have been asking me about the lunch hour sessions, the book study. So the next book for the lunch hour sessions is going to be The Civilized Leader. If you haven't grabbed your copy yet, please do so that you can follow us along as we do that. It's been quite busy for me, and that's why we haven't had the launch out session. But I promise that next month we will begin the launch out session, the session where we can dance and listen to some music and make it fun. We're coming back to that. So grab your copy of the book. Some of you have already done that. I want to say thank you so much. And then some of us had been asking me of the True Civility, the book that I had a foreword from Dr. Rivas. It's right here. So you can purchase it right on Amazon. If you type in my name on Amazon, you should be able to see these books come up. But guys, I want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for always being here with us. And Wenger, a bigger thank you to you for making our time to share this wonderful message, wonderful teaching. I am so proud to be connected with you, and thank you for the work that you had helped me do, even with my brand. It's coming alive, guys. Let me tell you, some fun things are coming up from next month. I tell you. So you want to be part of what we're doing. You want to be part of the storytelling intensive. It's going to be amazing. If you do that, it's really going to help your brand, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals online. And so it kind of seems like there's so much noise. In order for you to be able to stand out of the pack, you need to know what you're doing. Your story must be in place. Your purpose, your brand must be in place. So, guys, thank you so much. And I have to let you go, and have yourself a wonderful rest of the Friday and weekend. And see you on Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye for now.